Okay, our next speaker will be talking about the limits we place on ourselves, which constrict us the most. However, when we push against those limits with new experiences, new choices, new knowledge, we build a greater life for ourselves. Giving speech number 10 from the Cosmic Communicator Manual, entitled The Journey to Significance, is welcome Sarah Baker.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I was sitting at a small round table when a hand descended over my right shoulder and slapped a piece of paper on the wooden surface. My first thought, whoa, I have not forged my mother's signature in decades. I'm not sure I still can. My second thought was, I am 54 years old. Why would I need to sign this? I looked up at my voice coach, Cheryl. And she kind of looked at me and said, well, Sarah, you've been wanting to train your voice for decades. It's a permission slip. Sign it. Why haven't you done this before? She was right. Why hadn't I? It was my choice to dream, but never act. It was my choice to live, but never fully live. It was my choice to yearn, but never risk. All those were my choices. I have forgotten that I'm significant in my life and those around me. What about you? Have you forgotten that you are significant? Well, I had to remind myself that I was significant, and so I decided to create permission slips. So my first permission slip, allowing myself to do things horribly. Have you ever done anything horribly? Yes. We did this naturally as children. When we allow ourselves to do something badly, we allow ourselves to change. We allow ourselves to grow. We allow ourselves to master new skills. Maybe for you it was riding a bike. My father taught me how. No training wheels, no helmet. Helicopter parents, where were they in my age? They weren't around yet. They hadn't been invented. So my father, he took me out in front of our house, which was on a hill, and gave me a good shove. I didn't know how to ride the bike. It was a too big, hand-me-down, black and white bike that I didn't know how to brake. So I'd go down the hill, I'd swerve off onto the grass and fall over. And that's how I would stop the bike. But sometimes, I was thinking at the time was my father trying to get rid of that fifth child? Sometimes I wondered, because I never thought about putting my son on a bike and giving him a good push down the hill. I mean, he's my only child. I don't have any spares. So, doing things horribly. And I did. I would go and I'd fall, and one day I got around the corner, and then I went farther, and all those little failures, they added up to success. And we forget about the little successes. Each little success, it builds on itself, one after another after another. But do we celebrate the little successes? Well, this January I learned to celebrate those little successes. I should have listened to my instincts and said, really, Sarah? You're going to do what? Well, my son and grandson decided that we should do a family event. Let's learn how to snowboard. Yeah, a good thing for a grandma to do in January. Well, the first thing of learning is realizing that you are unconsciously incompetent. I didn't know how to stand up on a snowboard. I just had the image of floating down the hill and sliding like an eagle. What you have to do is you put your edge in of the board, and then you scoop forward, you put your other edge in, the toe edge in, and then you raise yourself up. Looks simple when a teenager does it. However, it took me 4 classes before I could stand up by myself. I also had some other problems. Running into other students, crashing into other classes, destroying a fence. But what was wonderful is my instructor, he was like 18, and he minimized all those little problems that I had going down the hill. And every time I did something right, he would say, "Oh my gosh, that was so awesome. It was so awesome." My next challenge of incompetence, unconscious incompetence, was going on the magic carpet. Basically, it's a conveyor belt from the bottom of the top to the top. Just takes you right up there. Looks so easy. Sarah steps on that conveyor belt, smack down. Her eyes, glasses fall off. Her snowboard, of course, is draying in the snow up there. My instructor is trying to pull me up, and he's panicking. I can hear it in his voice. He's yelling, "Turn off the magic carpet! Turn off the magic carpet!" Well, the guy in the little control booth wasn't really paying attention. So now we have the whole mountainside. I have a mountain chorus going, "Turn off the magic carpet!" Yes. Of course, I got up, we stood, I'm fine. The guy's gazing out over the hills, not even noticing what's going on in the magic carpet. And a good 5 minutes later, we hear the chorus again going, "Turn on the magic carpet!" So it turned on. But that little instant had me move from unconscious incompetence to conscious competence. Because every time I went up to that magic carpet again, I made sure I did it exactly right. Because I was not going to turn it down. I turned it off again for 10 minutes. So that was a huge celebration for me. The next celebration was learning how to get off the lift. The ski lift. It takes you off the top of the mountain and splat. And of course I had my young instructor there going, "All you have to do is stand tall, stand proud." Yes. And after 4 lessons, I did learn how to get off the ski jump. But by the end of all those lessons, after a little accomplishment after a little accomplishment, I was able to do a falling leaf down one of the harder hills. I felt so invigorating, so strong. I felt like a badass. I was just there, and I could go down like an eagle. It was wonderful. So think about all those little victories that you're not celebrating in your life, because they add up one by one by one, and then all of a sudden you're competent at something. Who knew? Who would have thought? My second permission slip to becoming significant was allowing myself to be seen and heard. I was a ghost during my early years. In fact, my first Toastmasters speech, it was a moment of silence. Literally, I did not say one word. A few years ago, I realized how quietly I'd been living my life. A group of us went out for pizza, and the lady next to me, at the end of the evening, stood up to say her goodbyes. I'd completely forgotten she was there. And as I looked at her, I realized I had been hiding and silent just like her for most of my life. Nobody even noticed I was there. And so I had to change. And little by little, I got better confidence. And I got to speaking in Toastmasters, and I tried many different things until I could stand in front of you today. The other was, I went to a Toastmaster, the District 6 meeting at the conference. And I hadn't realized how I was influencing others until I heard a candidate, one of the candidates for director, Central Division Director, and she said, the reason I decided to become a candidate was Sarah Bateman. I saw her Toastmaster journey, I saw how she changed, and I wanted that for myself. So let yourselves be seen, let yourselves be heard, because you don't know who is around you. Who is watching you? Who is learning from you? Because you're leaving a legacy every step of your way. My third permission slip, learning to say no. I worked at a mortgage company. I was a mortgage closer. I was young. I was dumb. Very naive. The processors loved me because I could never said no. I never, ever said no. And so they'd rush by my desk at about 5 o'clock and slap down a file, a rush file, and be out the door home. And here I would be with an unexpected file at 5 o'clock. And I wouldn't be able to finish it before the last FedEx pickup. So I'd also have to take the closing package to the airport, usually. Well, one day, a processor from another team came over, and she asked me to do one of her files. And I did, and I took it back to her. She looked up at me. Aren't you going to take it to the airport? The gall of that woman. It still irks me to this day. Can you imagine doing a favor for somebody and them not even appreciating it, going, aren't you going to do more? Well, I said no. Something in me snapped, and I said, no, I'm not taking it to the airport. And she took it to her manager, and they figured out a special pickup from FedEx, which they wouldn't do for me. And that day I learned that saying no at the appropriate time was important because it showed myself and those around me that I was significant in my life, in the lives of my family. Me getting home to my son was just as important as them getting home to their children. I had been teaching them how to treat me. Every time I took a rush file at 5 o'clock, I taught them, oh, it's okay, Sarah will do it. She never says no. Every time I didn't stand up for myself, don't worry, Sarah, she's a doormat. She's a pushover. Just go for Sarah. And they did. I was a target. I had like a huge target on my back. Sarah never says no. How are you teaching people to treat you? Because when I started saying no, my life improved. I started getting home at a regular hour. I started having time for my family, for my son. Gary Ryan Blair, he says, you should have a long no list and a short yes list. Because those yeses many times are coming from other people. It's there for their convenience. And when you start saying no, you gain control of your life. So how many no's do you have in your life? And how many yeses? Do they balance? Or can you say no more often? Because once you say no, your life is your own. You're not a prisoner to everybody else. So think about yourself and your significance. How are you in your life? Do you allow yourselves to do things badly at first, without judgment? Without going, oh my God, that was so bad, everybody will notice. Oh goodness, I'm such an idiot. Do you allow yourself to do something badly? What about being seen and heard? Many of us want to duck and cover whenever there's a problem. But what I found out is that the problems don't go away, they just nail you harder. And the third, learn to say no. And of course, remember that permission slip? Start signing that permission slip, Mr. Toastmaster.
Well, I'm giving myself permission to do horribly on the SEER work.
There you go.
But Diane, maybe we should make this a family affair.